Good evening, everyone. My name is Abhash Vaidyanathan, and today I'm going to teach you about monetary policy of the country. Uh, Before I start about the monetary policy, and I teach you about the how it works and what are the complications involved in this, I would like to tell you one thing that this topic is very important from the examination point of view because what I have noticed that in preliminary examinations, the questions are straightway asked from the monetary policy. Right, every year you have two questions from the instruments of monetary policies. This is certain. This is very certain that you will have certain questions from the monetary policy. So this is very important topic from the preliminary point of view. In mains also the questions are asked, but the questions would be of different nature. The questions would be relating to banking reforms or financial market reforms or the capital market reforms. The questions would be indirectly, but it is relevant in the mains. And of course, the monetary policy is important in day-to-day life because you see the newspaper is always splattered around the news of monetary policies. Uh, First of all, uh, what do you learn in monetary policy? Monetary policy and and the fiscal policy. There are two words. Uh, let's not get confused about. Let's not get confused in these two words. What is the monetary policy and what is the fiscal policy? Monetary policy is the policy of the central bank related with money and the interest rates. It is interest rates plays a very important role in the economy, and the RBI tries to manipulate the interest rates by different instruments. So monetary policy is made by the central bank of the country, and uh, and the RBI tries to impact the interest rates through monetary policies. In fiscal policies, the policy of the government, Ministry of Finance is responsible for fiscal policy, and the fiscal policy is related with the taxes and expenditure of the government. It deals with the receipts and the expenses of the government that we do in the budget sections. So this is the first thing, fiscal policy and the monetary policy. Now, monetary policy has a history. Earlier it was only Governor RBI which was responsible for making monetary policy of the country. But after liberalization, there's so many changes going on into the economy. The Dr. Raghu Ramrajan came and he set up some important committee. And one of the committee was Dr. Urjit Patel committee, and he had recommended a path-breaking change in the monetary policy. Now, monetary policy of the country is made by Monetary Policy Committee, which consists of the 6 members, 3 out of which would come from RBI and 3 would come from the government. 3 would come from the government side, right? You should, from the examination point of view, should also know the name of all the 6 persons currently. I can give you, but I will probably hold this information and give you later on. Monetary policy, there are certain basic information. What is the objectives of the monetary policy? The monetary policy is, through monetary policy, RBI has to maintain the price stability in the country. The price should not be volatile. Volatile prices, like prices rising and falling sharply, is very bad for the economy. And the RBI looks into these aspects. It creates an element of uncertainty in the economy. And whenever there is an uncertainty in the economy, it will discourage the private investment. Because now the investment and the wealth creations, which you might have seen in this budget, has to be driven by private investment. And the private investment gets affected by the uncertainty. And if there is an uncertainty, then it will discourage. So it's a very important. Even though we must know that the inflation in the economy, which is the price rise, can happen because of the mistakes of the government and the RBI. But it is the only RBI which is responsible for controlling inflation in the country. It is RBI is mainly responsible for controlling inflation in the country, though the government also has certain responsibility. Right. There's certain fundamental information which I read. Right. And I would tell you the instruments and all, but what I have felt here is, if to understand monetary policy, it's one of the topic of the financial system of the country. Financial system. It is one of the topic of the financial system. Financial system of the country. It is one of the topic of the financial system of the country. Now, when you understand financial system, I just deviate from my topic. Instead of going to teach you monetary policy, I'm going to discuss about the financial system. Just brief, I'll just take few minutes on this. And the financial system, there are three stages of learning. There are three stages of learning of the financial system. One is definitely RBI, as you all know. If you understand the working of the RBI, you would understand monetary policy. You also need to understand how the commercial bank function in the country. And of course, you should also know about the financial market, which which has two segments. One is money market, and another is capital market. This is also part of the financial system. Now, if you understand RBI and the commercial bank, you would be understanding monetary policy of the country. Now, again, I would come back here. I would tell you about the commercial bank. I would tell you about the commercial bank. I will tell you about the RBI. RBI, there are lots of functions, and there is a detailed information for which I would like to take a separate class. But here, what is relevant to understand monetary policy is functions of the RBI. So if I again come to take some snapshot from the main classes, some part of the functions of the RBI can be broadly divided into two parts. Right? One, as you all know, and it's a very fundamental knowledge in economics, one is regulatory functions of the RBI. One is regulatory functions of the RBI. Another is development functions of the RBI. Now, RBI has development functions, which is again separate topic. RBI is responsible for establishment of various financial institutions catering to different sectors of the economy, which I will close it for the time being. Regulatory functions are important, and again there's various regulatory functions here also. There are various regulatory functions also here also. They are here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the first I would say, RBI is controller of the credit in the system. RBI is controller of credit in the system. RBI is controller of the credit in the system. Now, I would like to teach you monetary policy. I would like to emphasize on these functions of this function of the RBI. Regulatory functions also has many components, like RBI is the bank of issue, RBI is the custodian of foreign exchange reserve, RBI is bankers to the government of India, RBI is advisor, agent of the government, RBI is bankers bank, and publication function, etc., etc. So that's not our concern right now. Our concern right now, and in this class, here is RBI is the controller of the credit in the system. RBI is the controller of the credit in the system. What does it mean? Credit means the flow of money, liquidity. Liquidity is a very important term. In economics, liquidity means the amount of credit in the system. So RBI tries to control the credit in the system. RBI tries to act like a dam. RBI tries to control. If there is an excess flow of money into the economy, the RBI would suck money from the system. Or if there is a deficient, it is just like a water flowing in the river. If there is a too much of water, that's also not good. If there is a too little of water, that's also not good. So understand, there has to be an optimum amount of things. Nothing is good in excess, and so is the true with money. Just printing money and flushing the economy with the money is not good. So RBI is the best guardian to look into these aspects of the economy. Try to understand. When I say controller of the credit, controller, when I say controller of the credit in the economy, controller of the credit means the flow of credit into the economy. And how does the RBI regulate the flow? How the RBI can increase the flow, RBI can decrease the flow. That's a very simple thing. The regulation of flow can be done by instruments of credit control. RBI has instruments. We call it instruments of credit control. Instruments can be of two types. All the instruments can be two types. Again here. First we have as a quantitative instruments. Quantitative. We have here quantitative instruments. We have quantitative instruments. And second we have qualitative instruments. Qualitative instruments. Quantitative and qualitative instruments. We have two instruments. What is a quantitative and qualitative instruments? Quantitative instruments would regulate the volume of flow into the volume of credit flow. It would regulate volume of credit flow into the system. It would regulate volume of credit flow. How much money is pushed into the system? Should we increase or decrease? This is regulated by, and the qualitative instruments, this is generally, again, this would control the direction of flow. This would control the direction of flow into the system. This would control the direction of flow, volume of credit flow and directions of flow. So we have two instruments. Again here, for normally monetary policy would tinker with one of the quantitative instruments, would tinker with one of the, therefore, to understand the monetary policy of the country, it is very important that we understand these quantitative instruments. Now, quantitative instruments can be of various types. I just come to the main point here and tell you what the quantitative instruments. And I write it here. Quantitative instruments. Quantitative instruments can be, one is the bank rate. Quantitative instruments can be one, bank rate. Open market operation. Open market operations. Open market operation. Repo rate. Repo rate. Reverse repo rate. Reverse repo rate. Repo rate. MSF, which stands for marginal standing facilities. Standing facilities, which stands for marginal standing facilities. CRR, CRR, which stands for cash reserve ratio, which stands for cash reserve ratio, and SLR, SLR, which stands for a statutory liquidity ratio, a statutory liquidity ratio. Now these are the instruments of the quantitative instruments. Now, these are not very difficult concepts. Believe me, these are not very difficult concepts. They are very simple concepts because all these are mentioned in the NCERT. This is not something which I am talking out of the book or something. They are mentioned in the class 12 books of NCERT, and they are very easy concept if you understand. If you understand, don't try to mug it up. You try to understand this concept, and they are very concept. Now here, how does these instruments help in monetary policy? Monetary policy, which is made by Monetary Policy Committee. I write here monetary policy, which is made by Monetary Policy Committee, can be of two types. One can be expansionary monetary policy. Expansionary monetary policy, you try to give a boost to the economy. Like currently these days recession is going on. So what is expected? Now it is expected that we should have expansionary monetary policy so that it give boost. It leads to the more generation of activity and employment and output, and so the national income grows. So expansionary monetary policy, which has another name also. It has another name, like it is also called cheap money policy. Cheap money policy. It is also called cheap money policy, right? And one can be contractionary monetary policy. Contractionary, it has a contractionary monetary policy. Contractionary monetary policy, and contractionary monetary policy is also known as a dear money policy. Dear money policy. And these are adopted during inflation, when you want to slow down the economy. Inflation happens because of too much of money into the system. And if there is too much of money into the system, then the RBI tries to control the flow of money into it. And it is here the RBI makes it difficult for the credit to flow into the system. And therefore, we have this control. I would explain you these things because I told you that you should have some background knowledge to understand Monetary Policy Committee. So I would take up all these instruments one by one and would give you the explanation for this. Now, repo rate, all these repo rate, see, the most important here and this here is repo rate. Most important. I would have loved to start with the bank rate, but let me start with the repo rate because I have the paucity of time also, and so that you can understand the other things. Because if you understand repo rate, you would probably understand other three other concept also. You can understand bank rate, you will understand reverse repo rate, you will understand MSF and all those things. You will be able to follow. Technically, I would have loved to teach you bank rate first, then open market operation, and then all those things. But then I'm here only taking repo rate first because I fall. Repo rate these days, repo rate, if I say, would normally see this term in newspaper. If you go through the newspaper, you will always come across this term. The government, the RBI has not increased, RBI has decreased, or something like this. Like this year, the monetary policy has come on 6th Feb, and it says RBI has maintained it as a neutral rate. Currently, it is 5.15%. Currently, I'm giving you the latest data. This is 5.15%. 5.15%. This is the repo rate which is currently flowing. This is also known as policy rate. Also known as policy rate, right? Now what is here? There are a lot of information related with here, but again, I would like to keep it simple here. Repo rate, the commercial bank here, commercial bank borrows money, borrows money, commercial bank borrows money from RBI, commercial bank borrows money from RBI against securities, against securities for short term, Now try to understand, I have given you a very simple thing here. Commercial bank borrows money from RBI against securities and short term. Short term, it can be 3 days to 14 days. We have a longer term repos also, but I will talk about it later. The short term can be 3 to 14 days, and of course, short term. Now, how does it actually work? How does it actually work? You see, I would like to explain you through this concept through a pictorial graph. I will make one world here. Take it as a commercial bank. Let it be a commercial bank of the country. This is a commercial bank of the country, and this is let's say economy. Let me say the public in general. This is public in general. And what the commercial bank will do? Functions of the commercial bank. I told you earlier, to understand monetary policy, you need to have the concepts of commercial bank and the RBI. Now the commercial bank and the RBI, commercial bank, any financial institutions to be called as a commercial bank must perform two functions. A bank to be called as a commercial bank or financial institutions to be called as a commercial bank must perform two functions. It must accept deposits and it must give loan. It must accept deposits. So it accepts deposits. The deposits, understand the flow. The money will flow from the public to the commercial bank. And again, the commercial bank will give loans to the public. Now, if you do two type of functions, right here, now the public deposits money to the commercial bank, and for which commercial bank gives loan to the, commercial bank gives interest to the public, which we can call it a deposit rates, and commercial bank gives loan to the public, for which the public gives various types of interest rates. We can call it a lending rate. So there is a lending rate here, and there is a deposit rate here. There is a deposit rate here. There are various kinds of technical terms which will come here, but if you understand the mechanism, they are very simple. They are very simple. Believe me, economics is very simple. I keep saying, I'll tell you this as a story, and economics will flow like a story. It is not a rocket science where you get confused or something, which I have normally seen people unnecessarily getting into technical jargon, which is definitely not required anywhere in economics. Economics is very simple, very interesting. Just try to understand, don't try to wrap it up. Commercial bank might need some kind of loan from the RBI, to, in the process of accepting deposit and giving loans, commercial bank lend. So the rate, this is rate at which it gets for short term is called repo rate. Now, if RBI feels that, if RBI feels that there is a inflation in the system, so, or there is a inflationary pressure, so RBI would like to decrease the flow of money into the system. Because inflation, one of the reasons for inflation is having excess of liquidity in the economy. So what the RBI will do, RBI will increase the repo rate. Once the RBI increases the repo rate, it will lead to increase in the lending rate. And once the lending rate increases, the credit into the system would automatically decrease and the inflation will get controlled. This is how it works. This is how it works. Reverse repo rate, if you understand repo rate, then there is another concept. When I told you repo, there is a similar concept, reverse repo rate. Reverse repo rate is similar. The RBI borrows from the commercial bank, RBI for short term against securities. Now the process is, they are actually all linked in the market. They are all linked in the market. Repo rate, which I just explained, which I thought is very important. And of course, reverse repo rate, which I have not explained. Reverse repo rate, which I have not explained. And of course, MSF is the similar process like repo rate, but then it is for very short term period. If repo rate is X%, reverse repo rate is X minus 2.5%. And MSF would be X plus X minus 0.25%. And of course, MSF would be X plus 0.25%. And similarly, bank rate, which I have not explained currently, X plus 0.25%. This is the rate. So currently, what is the rate we have now? Currently, what we have rate right now? We have 5.15 is the repo rate. So you tell me what will the reverse repo rate? It will be 4.19%. The MSF would be 5.40%. And this would be also be 5 point. You can verify and cross-check data. Currently, these are the various rates. Now, I have told you repo rate, reverse repo rate. MSF is similar to repo rate, but it has a different, there are certain features which like it is very short term. It is overnight rate. This is used differently for different things and used differently. And the rate, and this is how they are linked. There's another more concept which I would like to come at and which is important. That is called, CRR. CRR is CRR is cash reserve requirement, cash reserve ratio. It is that part of It is that part of NDTL. Now NDTL is a technical term. Hold on, I will just explain it. Which a commercial bank has to keep. Which a commercial bank has to keep. Bank has to keep with the RBI. Keep with RBI in the form of cash. In the form of cash. Right? Now, NDTL is a very, again, important concept here, which I would tell you. Bank accept deposit. That is one thing which is bank does. I told you earlier, bank accept deposit. Deposit can be of two types here. One is called demand deposit. Demand deposit. And another is time deposit. Demand deposits and time deposits. So NDTL, net demand and time deposits. Net demand and time deposit. It has some formula also. Let's not get into the formula of NDTL and GDTL, gross demand and time liabilities. they are called liabilities. Deposits by the public are the liabilities of the bank. And the loans given by the bank are the assets of the bank. So you must have the concepts of asset and liabilities. Why it is called liabilities? Because it is belongs to the public and they have deposited in the bank. So that's the liabilities of the bank. So this is called demand and time liabilities. So this is accepted. I would love to tell you a lot more about demand and time deposits, the features of it, and of course the questions have also come from type of deposits, but I would hold it here because I need to tell you about the monetary policy of the country. Now here try to understand the similar pictograph that I make. Here there is a RBI and that there is a flow of money from the public to the commercial bank, and the bank gives loan here to the bank gives loan to the public, and here it is that part of total deposit which a commercial bank has to deposit with the RBI. So there is a concept out of the 100 crore, let's say a bank has got 100 crores. So 4 crore would go into the RBI because CRR currently is 4%. 4%, right? CRR is currently 4%. And there is another concept of SLR. I'm taking slightly a shorter route. SLR stands for statutory liquidity ratio. Statutory liquidity ratio. It stands for statutory liquidity ratio. Statutory liquidity ratio. It is that part of NDTL which a commercial bank has to keep with itself in the form of liquid cash, gold, or government securities. Government securities. So government securities again is a word which I will explain you later on. It's very safe kind of investment. It's a very liquid because it can be converted into cash at any times. So that's a wonderful concept, right? SLR here. So definition, apart from the definition aspects of it, what actually happens during inflation? How do you tinker with all these? How do you tinker with all the rates? I have just spoken here about the monetary policy. When I say monetary policy, it has expansionary. If I write here is expansionary monetary policy. That means I would like more, and let me write here contractionary monetary policy. So what I would do here, what the RBI would do here, the RBI would decrease the repo rate. When RBI would decrease the repo rate, it would decrease the lending rate and therefore the more credit flow. And the repo rate is linked with the reverse repo rate. So reverse repo rate would automatically decrease. MSF would automatically decrease. And of course, here the bank rate would automatically decrease because they are all linked with the bank rate, and repo rates are different. Bank rate, earlier the bank rate was used regularly, but these days repo rate is the main policy, right? Bank rate, repo rate, reverse repo rate, and bank rate would decrease. RBI would decrease CRR. If the CRR decreases, then out of the total deposit that is flowing from here to here, the less money will go from here to here, and the more money would go from here to here. Right? More. This is what RBI want. Expansionary. I want to expand the economy, and therefore to decrease CRR, and therefore you decrease SLR. Right? The SLR, I told you, the money flowing into the government securities. Of course, this would also have. And the contractionary monetary policy is just the reverse. You increase you just say you increase repo rate, and therefore all these instruments will also increase. You increase CRR and increase SLR. What I have not explained you is I have not explained you OMO. And there are various other kind of technical terms which I have not explained to you in my current classes, which I apologize because I just had the liberty of taking this class for 50 minutes. I hope I teach you more There are a lot of things. This is my very favorite topics, important topics. This is the first topic which I teach. I normally teach introductions, where I teach introduction. When I give you introductions, I welcome you into the world of economics. And this is the topic which I take, which is the second topics. I hope you have enjoyed my class.